Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina, I'm the host here, and my guest today comes from Ireland, Chloe Gardiner. Hi, Chloe.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being my guest. So, you are 19 and you have two businesses. And not only you have two businesses, you have award-winning businesses. Tell me, how did you become a businesswoman?
It's a good question. So when I was 15, I was in Ireland. We have a bit of a gap year between doing our exams and leaving school. So in that year, I decided we were given a chance to have a little startup kind of business company. So I decided that I would start the Wonky Woolins, which is a handmade soft toy company. So through this year, we kind of wrote up business plans and did kind of bits and pieces to do with the business, and it wasn't really anywhere near what it is now. And I sold at craft fairs throughout that year. And then the first COVID lockdown hit and all the schools closed. So I decided I want to pursue this business. I'm sick of school. Let's push the business. So I posted my first picture on Instagram and I got my first customer. And from there, it just spiraled. I built a website and it just kept going and going. And then for some crazy reason, I decided to start a second business called Baa Baa Bandits, which is a supplier of giant knitting wool, which is also online. So if you've seen wool roving and you've seen arm knitting, that's what I sell as well. So that one business is completely online and it's also grown really rapidly, which might dismay because I have no experience in business. I'm just learning as I go. And then, yeah, I ran it throughout school. In the final 2 years I was at school, I kept running the business, which was crazy, and I didn't get much sleep, but I kept running it. And I was entered a pitching competition with Theo Pavitas, who is a former Dragon's Den UK star. So Dragon's Den is a bit like Shark Tank over in America and the US. So I entered that pitching competition and I won twice, one for young entrepreneurship and one for just general entrepreneurship. Which was just such a shock because I never thought I'd win. There were so many incredible businesses there, and for my Wonky Woolins and my Baa Baa Bandits to win, it was like such a shock. And yeah, I was invited over to the UK just 2 months ago to meet with Theo and receive the award. So yeah, kind of like an unsuspecting entrepreneur. It just happened for me.
Well, when you look back at that decision to go full force into this business, if you thought about it, if you knew what's involved and how much work involved, would you do it?
100%. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Like I've been surrounded by business people and entrepreneurs my entire life. Like my dad has always run businesses and he sold businesses, and my granddad and my uncles have all run businesses, and I've seen those businesses go under and come back up, and I've seen the work and that it takes, and I've always enjoyed working. So I kind of, yeah, I think I would do it again 100%.
Well, how did you decide when with the first business of yours? Let's go back. Tell me how you taught yourself how to knit, how to do it, first of all.
Yeah, I've from a really small town in Ireland. I live over in the west of Ireland now in Galway City, where it's much busier and I have a life. But back in where I'm from, in Edenderry in County Offaly, there was nothing to do. You would come home from school and that was it. There was no friends, there was no hobbies, there was nothing. So I was bored and I was really into crafting, and we'd done a kind of a yarn bombing in the school, and they tried to teach me how to crochet and I couldn't get it, but I just decided that this is it, I'm going to do it. So I went onto YouTube and I'd go and just troll through all these YouTube videos to teach myself how to crochet. And from there, I've just learned how to read crochet patterns. So I never read crochet patterns. I didn't know how to do any of it, but it just made sense to me, which was just really strange, but it just clicked. And my granny I was always into knitting. I can't really knit, but I'm more of a crocheter. But my granny used to create these really amazing handmade soft toys, like knitted characters, and they were kind of passed through my family for generations. And that was also kind of how the business started, because I saw my granny's handmade soft toys that had all been knitted, and I thought, I want to recreate this because there's just something so unique and so special about something that's handcrafted, I think.
Well, when you created that first toy that you actually made, was that trying to recreate something from your childhood memories, or was it some new idea that you saw somewhere online?
No, I think it was, yeah, definitely from my childhood memories. I'd kind of seen different kind of quirky characters Granny had made that had never really looked like what they were meant to. There was a a dog that looked a bit like a penguin, but we said it was a dog. But yeah, I think I kind of wanted to recreate them in maybe a slightly better manner. So yeah, a lot of them have been inspired by my childhood.
So like, okay, when you start crocheting the toys, there is a learning curve there, like with any skill, right? What came easy and what was difficult for you?
I'm trying to remember back. I know I was 12 when I taught myself how to crochet, and I think I always have to teach myself everything. If somebody tries to teach me, it just ends badly. So because the teacher tried to teach me in school, nothing had happened. So yeah, I think there's a lot of crochet stitches I still can't do. But I'm trying to think what the hardest thing was. And yeah, I think just from day one, it just made sense to me. And it was just the strangest thing because nothing else has made so much sense before, but I could just see how I was going to make them and how the pattern was going to go. And yeah, I can't say there's been anything really, really trying with crochet, to be honest.
Well, okay, like I did try a little bit here and there, like some amigurumis, and what I found was difficult for me is when the animal is like simple and round, it's sort of easy to understand like how to shape it. But then when there is like, I don't know, giraffe with like a really long neck, and that neck, there is like no way to keep it sturdy. It's like starts cranking this way and that way. Like, how do you see the shape you need to make? Like, is it somewhere like in your head right away, you know, where you need to increase, where you need to decrease, and how it's going to be?
Yeah, I didn't realize how strange I was with crochet before I started talking to other people who crocheted, because I can literally see it in my head. I can't follow a pattern. Even if I'm following a pattern, I'll do my own thing and it'll become something completely different. I can see where it needs to be increased and decreased, and I can just see exactly how I'm going to make the giraffe's neck stand up. And it's really strange, and it's a really strange skill to have, but I can just see it in my head before I make it, how it's going to work and how many stitches I'm going to need and how it's going to happen. And yeah, it's strange, but it's how I do it.
Is it difficult for you to price your projects? Because, you know, on one hand, you started, you were still in high school, so, and you were sort of new to that, you're not an experienced crocheter yet. On the other hand, it takes tons of time and effort and love. Like, how do you decide on the pricing?
Very early on, I was really naive with pricing. I would have like I made this unicorn, and I remember I individually stitched each and every hair onto its head, and it took me days. And I was selling it for €20. And I look back now and I'm like, why? Because now when I'm making something, I want to make sure that it's scalable and that it doesn't take too much time to make. So yeah, definitely initially I was really naive about it. It was €20 for something that really should have been worth hundreds because it taken me days to make. But now I've gotten it down to a fine art in which the Wonky Woolins, which I do sell, are profitable, and they only take me, X amount of hours, say 2 hours is the maximum that I will do, so that I can sell them and make a profit. And yeah, you have to be really, really sharp about it. And there are things that I want to do. There are really extreme stitches and intricate details that I want to include, which I know only an experienced crocheter will see, and that will bring the cost and the time for me. So it's just about being a bit smart about it and a bit kind of just make it simple and to sell. Yeah.
If you create something, do you always think about that you need to sell it, or do you ever just sort of indulge yourself and let your artistic side go crazy and do what pleases you?
It's a hard one because I think I never saw myself as a very creative person. I've always been very like practical, and this is how it's going to be done, and it's not about what I want kind of person. But I think when I'm making something initially, if it's like a prototype, I will indulge myself and I'll take loads of time to make it. But it will always be in the back of my mind of, can I sell this? How quickly can I make it? It's always in the back of my mind constantly.
You have hard time managing everything because there is a lot of parts to this business. Like you have to be actually creating it, you have to buy materials, you have to market it, you have to promote it, sell it, do the customer service. Like, how do you decide how do you prioritize things?
What I've always done, and I was never very organized or disciplined before I had the businesses because I was a kid. But what I do nowadays is I sit down on a Sunday evening and I write down the list of things I have to do for the week, and then I'll label them from 1 till 100 or however many there are, and then I will try to get them done as quickly as possible from the 1 to 100 list, because there are 100 small things to do each and every day, especially with the two businesses the way that they are and the speed at which they're going at. There's the press, there's the marketing, there's replying to emails, packaging orders, sending the orders out. And for the two businesses, it's incredibly intense and it's really, really difficult. And yeah, I think hopefully this year I'll be getting some help in, but it's incredibly difficult to just be able to managing everything. And I spend most of my nights just making Wonky Woolins. I stay up all night and just make and make and make. So yeah, it's very difficult, but it's all about being organized and being disciplined about everything, and yeah, having a bit of life as well on the side.
I mean, does that bring you joy? Like when you create stuff, right? Is that still sort of the artistic joy of making it, or is it stressful business because you need to create that many things in that much time?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked the most, is do you still enjoy it? And I still do 100%. I still love making them. Obviously, the odd time when I see I have 10 giraffes to make in a night, I might go, oh no, no. But I still, when I see them all made and when I'm making them, I really thoroughly enjoy it. So it hasn't actually altered how much I enjoy it. I think it's made me almost enjoy it more in some sort of strange sense, because I see them going to their new homes. I see the joy that they bring people, and just seeing them and creating them is still something that's really joyful for me.
Well, when you create the same toys, right? Because you figure out like which toys you're selling on your site, does it ever get boring to do the same giraffe like over and over again?
You know, I don't think it has. That's the funny thing. I think definitely if I've had days when I've had to just make giraffes constantly. I've had 3 days straight of just making giraffes, and sometimes it's just exhausting. I'm sick of seeing the yellow wool. I can't take any more. But apart from that, honestly, each of them is different, and each of them kind of brings its own set of challenges. Even though it's the same pattern and it's the same animal, it still seems different, which is really strange. It doesn't make any sense to say, but it is the way it is.
Well, when you look at them, do you try to show their character through their faces? Like some of them sassy and full of attitude, and others sweet?
I think it depends. I've had a few of them that look really, really angry and a few that look really sassy, and I have to take them apart and go, no, I have to be happy. But yeah, there's definitely, I always put so much detail into the face, because I think the face is the most important thing about a Wonky Woolen, because there's just such character behind them. So yeah, the face is like so important, and it has to be happy.
How do you react like when you get the feedback from your, customers? Is that like always something mind-blowing to see some kid with your toy, hugging your toy?
Yeah, it's so strange to see it. And I've been at this for the last 3 years, seeing people with the toys. And only recently I was in the city and I saw a kid walking in the street with one of my Wonky Woolens. And it was like, wow, because it's so strange to see them in other people's hands and other people's homes, because so much of the time I make them, I put them in a box and I send them and I post them out. But to see them land in Australia and in the States and in Canada, it's so strange to see something that I made in my studio in the west of Ireland travel all the way over there and be with somebody. And the response has been amazing. Like seeing people review the product and say they love them and their kids' faces light up when they see them. That's something that's just so special to me, and I just love seeing.
You're a perfectionist. Like when you make the next toy, is everything has to be like absolutely perfect? Like what if you skip a stitch or something? Like do you how much mistakes do you allow yourself to have?
I don't want to say I don't make mistakes, but with the Wonky Woolens, I can make them without even looking at them anymore, because I've made so many. But yeah, there is a certain level of perfectionism. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, although someone might beg to differ. But yeah, there has to be a certain standard to them. They have to have, the face has to be perfect, the ears have to be perfect. They are called Wonky Woolens for a reason, because they are handmade and there are little imperfections. But yeah, I would say that there has to be a certain standard when you're selling them. They have to be pretty perfect. Yeah.
What point did you feel like comfortable selling them, comfortable putting your name on every toy and sending them to customers? And do you like ever worry about like people getting them out of the box and going like, well, that's not how I envisioned that?
I've been very lucky in that that hasn't happened yet. I hope it never does. But yeah, I think because I started so young and so early, and because it was at craft fairs, it was like a natural progression. With the initial ones I sold were nowhere near the standard at which I sell them now. But now, because it's a bigger business, it's online, there's more customers, I have to be really, really definite about selling them and how good they look when they leave the house. That they have to be perfect and they have to look good so that nobody can really have a complaint that they are perfect. And yeah, I think I have my own set of kind of quality checks and certifications that I do to make sure that they are perfect and they're good to go.
If you could delegate some of the tasks that you do in part of your business, like what would you try to give away? Like what's your least favorite thing to do in the business?
There's nothing that I would say is my least favorite thing to do because I'm still in the very early stages of entrepreneurship. But I think I would love to get help with making the Wonky Woolins. Is definitely on my list of things to do. Probably the marketing side of things as well, a bit of help there, everywhere. It's hard to pinpoint where I think it would be best spent, but I think yeah, definitely in production and producing them, it's definitely taking its toll now. I spend way too much time making them and too little time, showcasing the product and marketing it. So yeah, it's definitely a mix of things, but I'd say production and getting someone to help in produce them.
Well, you mentioned to me that until very recently, you didn't even know how to read patterns. If you had to explain somebody else how to make those toys your way, would it be difficult for you?
I don't think it would because I've just learned how to write the patterns quite reasonably okay, and it hasn't been as difficult as I thought it would be. So I kind of delegated the patterns to people I know who can crochet, and I said to them, try make these and see what you can do. And yeah, it's worked out really well so far. So I think it would definitely take them some practice, but we will get there eventually, and I think that would be good enough.
When you decided to try to start the Baa Baa Bandits, was that because you weren't busy enough with the first company?
I know, I look back at that decision and I think, why? But yeah, I think I was going into my final year in high school and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because in Ireland we have literally 6 months to decide. Well, not really 6 months, but 6 months in reality to when you sit your final exams, and you have to pick what your career choice is going to be when you go to college. You have to choose it really quickly, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the Wonky Woolins were going well, but they weren't. I couldn't see how sustainable they could be as a business, and I've seen that now. They can be much more sustainable, but I think I saw the Bandits as a really scalable business that I could just buy product, sell product, and make a career for myself by the time I left school. So yeah, it was in hindsight probably not the best decision I've made, but it's been a great business and I do not regret starting it. But I'm just so busy now, it's quite difficult to balance everything.
So in that company, you sell not just the chunky yarn to make those blankets and throws, but also the final product itself?
Yeah, so probably the main part of my business is just selling the wool itself. I might have a few for the blankets and things like that. They're not as, I push the wool more. I try to make it more of an arm knitting business. But yeah, I also sell the finished products for, say, blankets is what I sell there on the side as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix.
So when you wrote that business plan initially, I mean, you look back now to that. Did you fulfill, like, was it working? Was it a good business plan?
Yeah, I think it was quite a good business plan for somebody who's never written one. But yeah, it's the back business has just grown and grown, and it's completely like when I first started it, it was really quiet and it was really hard to get it going. But once it got going, and once I started selling, it was like the momentum kept going, and it has gone really, really well. And it's definitely surpassed my expectations anyway in that business plan. It's gone much further than I thought it would. Both businesses have. So yeah.
So when you market yourself, right? When you're on social media or on your website, like, Do you have any marketing advice for people who just starting? Like, what worked for you really well?
What worked for me really well is I was very lucky early on. When I first started my Instagram page, I went into the smaller, say, women in business groups that were kind of run in my local area and in around Ireland. And from there, I got about 30 followers. And then it kept going. And I was very lucky that I had a great customer who would do work with, say, social media influencers and kind of famous people around Ireland. And a few of my products ended up in their hands through not even me trying for free. So because of the social media influencers and those people sharing my products, that's how it really spiraled for me and got started. So yeah, I would say if you can get a social media influencer early on or somebody with like a celebrity or whoever, that has been the key to my business kind of growing as quickly as it did very early on online. And yeah, I would say I built all my own websites because I could, and I was very lucky that way. So yeah, I would say just save as much money as you can and pour it right into marketing. And I've done a few Facebook advertisements and things like that, but definitely get in front of the camera, which I'm really bad at. But whenever I share a picture of myself and the business and tell my story, my engagement will fly up and I get loads of new followers. So just have a really strong story and be able to put yourself in front of the camera, which I don't do enough of. You should do that and you'll think it's worked out well for me. So give that a go.
How much about yourself do you tell to your audience?
I think for me, yeah, I'm not great at being very open about myself to my audience, but definitely I have the story of how the business started, being inspired by my granny who had handmade these toys for me. So people love that story because it's a really sweet story and it's inspired by my granny. And that's the story that I'll tell a lot, that they can be cherished for a lifetime. And that story is very important too. And I've seen a lot of businesses and a lot of business people share their everyday lives on their social media channels. I don't have time for that because my life is very boring. I just pack orders and I move business along. But yeah, that's probably something that I might look into doing in the future. But yeah, I think I'm probably a bit too private on my business pages. But yeah, just the kind of how the business got started, and that's it really. I'm really bad at it.
So what's the variety of toys that you offer now? Like, how many different toys do you sell?
At the minute, this month, I have about 8 which are available. 2 are limited edition. So yeah, there's kind of the 5 or 6 that I'll sell all year round, which I know will sell and sell really well and people love. So like the giraffe, the cow, the unicorn, the dinosaur, they're the kind of few that everybody just adores. And I just keep them on the site constantly because I have them in stock. And it's much easier to have stock instead of doing custom orders and things like that.
Do you have a favorite?
Definitely the giraffe. I love the giraffe.
Can you show us the giraffe?
Yeah, I have one of our giraffes, kind of one of the older ones, who kind of comes around to the trade fairs or any events with me. It just comes with me. So yeah, the giraffes are my favorite. I love making them, and they're also the best-selling product as well. So it gets better.
Do you always have the like literal approach to colors when it comes to toys? Like, are giraffes always yellow with brown spots? Like, do you try to get the realistic approach?
I've never thought about doing them in different colors. I think it's always just been the realistic, within reason approach. Yeah, so it's always been yellow and brown. Some of the dinosaurs will come in different colors, but I mean, who really knows what color a dinosaur is? So
How do you see your business developing in the future? Like, do you think you're gonna concentrate on one business more than another, or like where do you see the growth going?
I see the growth going very much on the side of the Wonky Woolins. And whatever I do with the Baa Baa Bandits, I'm not sure whether or not I'll pass it on to my brother and say, take it on, enjoy it, or if I'll sell it, or what I'll do with that business. It's a really good business and it's done really well, but there's still something that I'm so much more passionate about the Wonky Woolins, and I always have been. So I think the Wonky Woolins is my main focus in growing that business. And yeah, I think the Wonky Woolins is the business I'm going with. Come back in 5 years and it could be different, but it's definitely the Wonky Woolins.
I mean, when you said you told me that like some of those toys that your grandmother made, like the generations of them were played with and loved, and you still have some of them. Is that your dream for your toys? Like when you're making them, do you hope that they're gonna last also through a few generations?
Yeah, that's definitely the intention, I think, because our toys, like we cherish them for a lifetime and we'd always love them. And I think that's definitely what I want, because there are so many cheap plastic toys out there that just break and they're made to be thrown away. And I think with the Wonky Woolins that I make, I want them to be durable. I want them to last for generations. And I think, yeah, that's definitely my aim, is to have them as kind of family heirlooms and just always be the toy that you remember receiving. Because I know I have toys that I've been gifted from people that have been knitted, and I've always cherished them. I've always had them, and I always remember the person that gave it to me. So I think that's the main thing for that business, is that they're heirlooms and that they can be cherished for a lifetime. It's what I really want for them.
Is the business very steady, or is there like seasonal aspect to it?
With the Baa Baa Bandits, it's incredibly seasonal, which always surprises me. But it's from probably winter and autumn for the Baa Baa Bandits. For the wool business is when I'm run off my feet with business. And now around this time of year, it gets quite quiet. With the Wonky Woolins, the soft toys, it's quite even most of the year round. Obviously at Christmas, there's a massive boost. It's crazy. Christmas is crazy. But yeah, the Wonky Woolins is probably more steady throughout the year.
Do you miss the festivals? Do you miss actually meeting people, like getting that feel for their reaction and like person to person communication at these festivals?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started the business, I would just do local craft fairs, which were quite quiet. Some days nobody would come, and other days we run off our feet. So I've never really experienced a big festival because I started the business and we had the 2 years of COVID, or three now. So yeah, I think I would love to be able to go over to the big festivals and meet with people and share the products and meet the customers. And yeah, I would love to do that, and I've definitely kind of missed that experience, and it would be great. It's going to be great to get back to it.
Do you see yourself getting into the teaching?
Teaching in business or teaching in crochet?
Well, either.
I think I would be a terrible teacher. I lack a lot of patience. So yeah, I think I should steer clear from teaching, but who knows? I maybe when I'm a bit older and more patient and more experienced, I'll be a better teacher, but not currently. I don't see that happening.
You feel like because you're young, you haven't, like, it's an advantage to be young because people just want to help you and help you succeed. Do you feel like that's part of the reason why you're so successful?
When I first started the business, I was terrified of telling people how young I was. I would be at craft fairs and I'd be selling the Wonky Woolins, and they'd say, "Oh, and what do you do?" And I tell them I was in college and I was 4 years off going to college. And they believe me. I was 15, acting like I was 19. So I was terrified of telling anybody about what age I was. So because I think I was afraid that it would directly influence people. Just as a charity, people would think that give this kid some money. I mean, poor child selling Wonky Woolins. So yeah, I was very scared of it, and even getting press and media attention early on, I told nobody what age I was until I met them in person, or until I just tried to avoid it as much as possible. And then I realized that it's not such a bad thing being young. So now I share it with everybody that I'm 19 and I've just turned 19 and that I'm running a business. But now people are generally very supportive and very supportive of a young person and wanting to help out. But yeah, it's been a mixed reaction sometimes.
I mean, so talking about business side, do you feel like you would be a good person to advise like other young people of how to start the business?
I think I would be up to a certain extent. Like I still have two very small businesses. They're nowhere near the level at which they could be. But I do enjoy helping other young people and kind of guiding them maybe in the right direction. I've had a few friends start businesses. I'm in a good few young entrepreneurship groups, and being able to kind of help people out and say, try this or do this, it's great. And I don't have all the answers. I'm still very young and very early on in the business, but I do enjoy helping people out and helping other young entrepreneurs who are probably my age when they started out, and giving them a few pointers. And yeah, I do enjoy that.
Who inspires you? Like, who do you find that you're looking up to and you want to be like them, like, or learn something from them? Like, are there people like that?
I think I've never really directly looked up to anybody. I think I've always just drawn inspiration from loads of different people. And I think I watch a lot of Shark Tank, I watch a lot of Dragon's Den, and Theo Paphitis is somebody that I always really looked up to and admired in the den. And meeting with him and speaking with him and kind of seeing how successful he was and how just kind he was as a person. And that's something that I would aspire to be in helping other people and businesses. And he doesn't need to help anybody, but he does. So yeah, I think I've always kind of looked up to Theo Paphitis, and it's not somebody that I would directly look up to, but I think I just draw inspiration from everybody in my life, and yeah, works for me.
Is that important for you to be helpful to like others?
I think, yeah, I think it is important to be as helpful and open to others and help them out and give them a bit of a helping hand, because people have been so helpful to me, and I've been very lucky with business mentors that I've met and people within our enterprise association in Ireland who have really come and helped me out for nothing, just out of the goodness of their heart. And I think I'd like to repay that and give that to other young people and other entrepreneurs from all different ages and backgrounds, and kind of give them a few pointers. That's really important to me. Yeah.
So when you create the toy, do you have like, do you imagine the character? Do you think about like personality of that toy? Is it like mechanical work for you, or is it still artistic sort of thing?
I think it's a mix of both. Sometimes if I have a load of toys to make, it's quite mechanical and it's quite, this is how they have to look. And then I'll always do the faces when I'm a bit fresher. When I have just made 100 giraffes, I'll come back and I'll do the faces when it's not as tiring. But yeah, I think I always want them to have a certain level of kind of cheerfulness and quirkiness to them. I just want them to be kind of make people smile and be happy. And yeah, that's kind of the main thing for me.
How is your family looking at the fact that you are a businesswoman? Are they proud? Are they supportive? Are they surprised? Like, where are they standing?
They're really supportive. I think when I was in school, there were days when my dad would say, "Do not go into school today, you look terrible," because I've been working way too much. I think initially they were worried when at 15 I turned around and I said, "I'm going to start a business and I'm going to run it through school." I think they kind of went, "No." So I did run it through school and it worked out. And when I went to start the second business, I will never forget the look of shock on their faces when I said, "I'm going to start a wool business and I'm going to sell arm knitting wool." And they went, "What is that?" So yeah, initially they were just really, really worried for me, but it's worked out. And now they're so incredibly supportive of the business. They help me out. They help me pack orders. Dad, I can't drive yet. In Ireland, you have to be 18 to drive, and I just haven't the time. So I still can't drive. So my dad will come with me over to the UK, and we'll go to the different events that we go over there, to the post office. They've just been so supportive of it. And, you know, it's just great to see what it brings them, I think, to see that not going to college has paid off.
Do you ever play with your toys?
No, I don't. I think they're just, yeah, it's a business at the end of the day.
Well, you mentioned to me that knitting didn't come easy to you and you don't knit, but you do knit with your arms, right? Hand knitting, like you take hand knitting to another level, basically. How, like, why that? Why did you learn to do that? What attracted you in that big chunky yarn?
I had seen it before. I mean, it's all over Pinterest, and I'd seen it and I thought I'd given it a go, and I bought wool from a company in the UK, and I really enjoyed it, and I just thought it was great. And then initially when I went to start the Baa Baa Bandits, I wanted to maybe dye my own wool and create my own wool. But I realized I already have a business that relies quite heavily on my time and me creating things. And I thought maybe in the future I'd do that. And then I saw the arm knitting and I kept gravitating towards it, because there's no other, well, at the time, there was no other arm knitting supplier within Ireland. So I kind of thought this is a good business idea to take. I'll start with the arm knitting and then go into other types of wools and yarns. So yeah, it was kind of a strange decision to make to go into arm knitting, but yeah, it's paid off.
When you make your toys, are they all the same size, or do you make them in different sizes?
They're generally all the same size. The different animals are different sizes, but I will try to keep the same animal the same size as much as possible. Sometimes they're a bit bigger, a bit smaller, a bit wonkier, but I try to keep them all as identical as possible.
And when you buy the materials, is that something like, are you drawn to colors, or you have like exact project in mind, you know, exact amount of material you need? Like, how pragmatic you are with all the material purchases?
I'm normally very much based on, I have a goal for this type of wool and this wool color and this material color. Like for the giraffes and stuff, I know exactly the color that I'm going to get. The odd time I might see something that really catches my eye and I think I could make something out of that, but it'll take me a while to come around to it and find something to make with it first. So yeah, I have to have an end product in mind before I go and buy any material.
When you think about like what else you can crochet, what other toys you can make, like, is there like any crazy ideas that you think and then like, maybe not yet?
There hasn't been, I think there's always, I'll see something that will kind of inspire me. And I think, oh, I'd love to make, I don't know, a horse or something great. That horse isn't really crazy, but yeah, there's definitely things that I'll see and I think I'd love to create that. But at the minute, because I'm so busy, it's like I'm going to stick with the toys that I have at the minute and just keep pushing them until I have a bit of help. But yeah, I can't say there's anything too crazy that I've been thinking about recently.
Well, as far as business goes, like when it's a slow time in business, right? When it's like seasonally slow or something, do you question like, is it something I did? Is it something I could have done better? How can I make that season not that slow? Like, do you ever question yourself, or do you feel like it's part of the business and that's it?
I'm constantly questioning myself. Even when the business is going really well, I'm thinking, how can I do more? How can I make sure that this continues, this success continues? So I think in times like that, when business is quite quiet, I'll go straight into planning how I'm not going to have this happen again next year. Because I've had times where with the other business, I've been left with no stock. I've sold out within 3 weeks and I've been left with nothing. And I've had months where I haven't been able to sell anything because there's no stock. But I think, yeah, whenever there's a seasonal time, I immediately go back to the drawing board and I say, how am I going to sell more? Or how am I going to get a steady kind of income again? And I'll start looking at more marketing measures and things like that. So I immediately go to a plan of action.
Are you happy? Like, are you happy where you are you content with this decision to be in this business? Do you ever question yourself like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone to school to study something else, become a doctor, I don't know, something, right?
Yeah, I think the thought has maybe crossed my mind once, and there's been 1 or 2 tough days in the business. I go, what am I doing? Like, I'm too young for this. I can't do this. What am I doing? But eventually comes back to what I've done so far. And I think, yeah, I never wanted to go to college. I never wanted to do anything else. I always thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I looked at maybe joining the family business. I looked at becoming a dog groomer. I knew from day one that I wanted to work for myself. So it hasn't really been a question in my mind of where I want to be. I know this time last year when I was in school, I would have wanted to be right here, right now, running the business and talking to you about the business. So I'm very happy with where I am. And I think I want to continue growing that. And I never really considered being anywhere else.
When you talk about working for yourself, like people have this image that it gives you flexibility, that you can go meet your friends for coffee, walk a dog, and then come home and like leisurely crochet. That's probably not what your day-to-day life looks like. You probably work like some weird like 12 hours a day or something, God knows. Like, is that like, did you think that it's going to be like this? Did you think it's going to be so much work and so many responsibilities and so many balls to juggle?
Yeah, I think I always knew that entrepreneurship wasn't an easy path. Like my dad used to do crazy hours when I was very young. In entrepreneurship, and I know the toll it takes, and I knew the toll that it took from day one and how busy I was going to have to be. And like I've seen my grandfather, my uncles, and my dad all scale businesses and all go through it. And yeah, I've seen the toll that it takes, and that you do have to work constantly for a business like mine. It is constant and it's never ending. Not never ending, but you get what I mean. It's really full on, but generally it's kind of about having a bit of a balance, whether it's taking the dog for a walk in the middle of the day. There is that element to it, and that I can meet my friends whenever I want sometimes, but there is an element of I have to work today. I have so much to do that I can't walk the dog today. I can't go with my friends today. And that's kind of a sacrifice that it takes, but it's not a massive sacrifice that I see, because there's always times in the business isn't as busy and I can take time off. So yeah.
When you meet with your friends, do you feel like you are with them? Do you feel like you're present and you're at the moment, or do you, with your head still in the business? Like, do you still think about the orders you need to fulfill and things you need to do?
Yeah, I think I'm quite good at kind of turning off the business side of me sometimes. I think there's definitely days when I'll get an email on a Sunday or Saturday morning and I can't stop thinking about it. And we can be going somewhere out with my friends or as a family and I'll be thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make this work? But it is important to think, just turn away. It is a skill to be able to just turn it off and not think about the business. And yeah, I would say I'm pretty present 90% of the time. But there are times when I'll drift off and I'll be thinking about, oh, I have to do this. I have this many like animals to make, or I have to do this in the business, or I have a meeting tomorrow. There is that element to it. But I think, yeah, I've been pretty good at kind of turning it off. I think my friends might beg to differ, but I think I've done an okay job.
Well, if somebody came, like one of your friends came to you and said, I'm thinking about getting into the handmade business, like, what's your advice? What would be your advice?
Oh, I would say be really clear about how many you have to sell a year. Like, I had a friend come to me recently actually and say, I want to start a baking business. I want to sell cakes. And she'd only been on to me the week before saying, I'm just snowed under with college work. I have so much going on. I've been up all hours working on college. And I was like, well, if you can't, you're at college, you have a lot of work to do. But anyway, yeah, I would say make sure you know how many you have to sell. Like, don't go into it blind. Do your homework to the extreme. Like, know exactly how many you have to sell, know how long each item's going to have to make you. And I'm not going to say don't indulge yourself, but be really sharp and practical as to how many you have to sell, what's the cost of material, is this really feasible as a business. I would just say be as sharp as possible and do as much homework as possible and make sure you have a markup and that the business is scalable and has a future, unless it's going to be like a side hustle, which is fine. But yeah, I'd say do your homework as much as possible.
Do you see yourself starting some other businesses as well in the future?
No, I don't think. It would probably be the time when, if I sell the business or if I kind of go out of it in some way, it's hard to say, because 4 years ago, if you told me I'd have a business, I would have laughed at you. Or 2 years ago, if you told me I'd have a second business, I would have said you're crazy, but I do. So yeah, it's hard to make a call on that one. I don't think so, not right now.
Well, I'll be very interested to watch and see you grow and see what you're gonna make in the future and how your business is gonna progress. Because I don't know, I see you running some multi-billion-dollar companies in the future.
We can come back in a few years' time and see what I've done. Or I could be a teacher. It could go completely kaput. I'll be teaching somewhere, but yeah, we'll see.
I have my belief in you, so yeah.
Thank you.
You're always welcome to come back and we'll talk about how it's going.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Thank you for being my guest today. I really enjoyed chatting with you and getting to know you better.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, so thank you.